Another tech IPO. Spotify releases news that they're planning on going public on Wednesday. What's this all about? Talk about it in this video, so stay tuned. So big news for Spotify that they're planning to go public. They'll be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. They're currently being traded on some private markets, and they're trading as high as $132. That would give the company a valuation of around $23 billion based on shares that are outstanding at this point. Spotify has over 71 million paying subscribers and more than 159 million monthly active listeners. Those are listeners that might just be using the free service, but then listening to the ads. Apple Music comes in with around 36 million subscribers. So comparing that to Spotify, Spotify definitely owns the market in terms of music streaming services. The company reported revenue of $2.3 billion in 2015, $3.6 billion in 2016, and then $4.9 billion in 2017. Spotify claims that their subscriber base is growing by 46% every year, which is a massive number compared to other online streaming services. So like most tech startups, they're actually losing money. So they made $4.9 billion in revenue in 2017, but they ended up losing a $1.5 billion loss in 2017. Spotify is at risk because of the fluctuating cost of premiums on music royalties, musicians and people kind of saying, I don't want to be on Spotify. Hey, I don't want to use my music. So there's kind of like a weird thing going on with Spotify. You know, if every artist came out and said, hey, I don't want to be on Spotify, what happens then? So the initial share offering will not be underwritten, meaning that there is no set price by the underwriters, which will inform opening trades on the New York Stock Exchange. It sounds like the initial offering will be priced basically at what the market is going to price it at. So if everyone's sitting there trying to buy Spotify at $5 and everyone's trying to sell it at $6, that would basically give you an idea of where the price is going to open up at. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this Spotify IPO. I do like that they're not setting a price, that they're not just like, hey, this is worth $100 right off the bat, and let the market really decide what they think it's worth, and then we'll see kind of where it goes. So where in the past we had Snapchat, we had Blue Apron that basically just came out and said, hey, we're worth this much today. It's $25. If you want to play, you got to buy $25. The stock price went way up, and then it crashed big. So this will be interesting to see what happens with Spotify, how this listing kind of goes, and then the market will set the price of the initial offering. I'm kind of hesitant about Spotify because there's a big issue with companies basically setting the price. So you have record labels, you have artists, people that are saying, hey, Spotify, I want you to pay more money for my music. Or hey, Spotify, we don't want to be on your platform anymore. What happens then? Can Spotify really survive if all these major artists pull off of Spotify? Spotify is great for new upcoming artists, but really when it comes down to, Spotify is going to have a lot of trouble if larger mainstream artists start saying, hey, I don't want to be on your service anymore. So looking towards the future, how can Spotify increase their revenue and make more money? Obviously, they're going to have to raise the price of subscriptions, and they're going to look for more subscriptions in the future, and then kind of offer more services. The one issue is really when it comes down to it, people are just listening to music. They're not really doing anything else on the platform other than listening to music. It's kind of hard to monetize this. There's not really ads, not really places to put ads. You know, they can kind of put ads every once in a while on stuff. But when you have Facebook, where companies are paying tons of money to get all that ad share on Spotify, a lot of people are just using the app on their phone, and they're not actually looking at the ads. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how the market prices Spotify, and then see where Spotify opens up and where it goes in the first couple of days of trading. I might be a buyer, I might be a seller. We'll see what happens once Spotify opens. I do think Spotify has a lot of potential, but there's a lot of trouble along the way in the future. And then also the idea that there's going to be a lot more streaming services coming out in the future. You have Amazon, who's really pushing hard on the music side. You got Apple. You're always going to have these new streaming services who are coming out with better, cheaper services or better music, better opportunity. So Spotify is in a very competitive space, and we'll see what happens here with Spotify going into the future once the IPO happens, and then kind of where the market sets the price. So let me know what you think about Spotify IPO. Will you be buying Spotify? Will you be selling Spotify once the IPO hits the market? I'll talk to you guys later on.